a day after the deadly crash between a passenger jet and a Black Hawk Army helicopter that killed everyone on board the two aircraft, President Donald Trump appears to be placing the blame on diversity.
Obama, Biden, and the Democrats put policy first, and they put politics at a level that nobody's ever seen, because this was the lowest level. Their policy was horrible, and their politics was even worse. The Federal Aviation Administration, this was before I got to office, recently, second term. The FAA is actively recruiting workers who suffer severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems, and other mental and physical conditions under a diversity and inclusion hiring initiative spelled out on the agency's website. The initiative is part of the FAA's diversity and inclusion hiring plan. Think of that. The initiative is part of the FAA's diversity and inclusion hiring plan, which says diversity is integral to achieving FAA's mission of ensuring safe and efficient travel. I don't think so. I think it's just the opposite.
So that right there is just, I mean, what is this? Blaming diversity hiring, like, oh, these people got have so much, so many problems. I can't believe they're hiring them. Oh, yes. No, what you're saying there is anyone who is not white, male, or completely able-bodied is inferior and should not be working in these jobs. That's what he's saying. Now, of course, he was challenged by a reporter on that, and here is that exchange.
Are you saying this crash was somehow caused and the result of diversity hiring? And what evidence have you seen to support these claims?
It just could have been. We have a high standard. We've had a much higher standard than anybody else. And there are things where you have to go by brain power. You have to go by psychological quality. And psychological quality is a very important element of it. These are various very powerful tests that we put to use, and they were terminated by Biden. And Biden went by a standard that's the exact opposite. So we don't know.
Well, you got to go by brain power. I mean, we even got tests that you can, that go by brain power. Really? Well, that's not true, because if there were tests for fitness of office, you wouldn't be in it right now. Okay, but look, here's the reality of the situation when it comes to this crash. The FAA is dangerously understaffed, has been for a while. And Trump just put a hiring freeze for air traffic controllers because they're government workers, right? Not only that, but he pushed out the head of the FAA because Elon Musk did not like him, okay? Now, as this for when it comes to this specific airport, remember, there have been safety concerns there for a long time. They continued cramming more and more flights into this airport that it could handle, right? According to air traffic control data obtained by the Washington Post, a similar incident almost unfolded at the airport just 24 hours earlier. And look, there have been several attempts at legislation to not only increase staff, but also, hey, why don't we, start worrying a little bit more about safety and stop cramming more flights in here, okay? Unless we have some sort of plan to, make these flights safer, right? But that didn't happen. No. Now, per that data, the Post reported a Republic Airways flight jet trying to land at DCA had to make a second approach when a helicopter appeared near its flight path. So, yeah, a CNN review of a federal incident reports found that at least 2 other pilots have reported near misses with helicopters while landing at DCA. So there's a helicopter base nearby. And according to the New York Times, an internal FAA report suggested the air traffic controller on duty at DCA the night of the collision was doing a job typically handled by 2 people. Airplane and helicopter traffic is normally handled by 2 separate controllers until 9:30 p.m. But a supervisor allegedly merged the 2 jobs before the allotted changeover time, a source told the New York Times. A preliminary Federal Aviation Administration report concluded that staffing levels were not normal at the time. So they didn't have enough staff. This doesn't have anything to do with diversity. Which, by the way, the diversity stuff that he was talking about actually started under the Trump administration. A release from April 2019 on the FAA website says the Federal Aviation Administration today announced a pilot program to help people, prepare people with disabilities for career in air traffic operations. A key focus for the FAA's Office of Civil Rights is to identify specific opportunities for people with targeted disabilities, empower them, and facilitate their entry into a more diverse and inclusive workforce. Those targeted disabilities are hearing, total deafness in both ears, vision, blind, missing extremities, partial paralysis, complete paralysis, epilepsy, severe intellectual disability, psychiatric disability, and dwarfism. Why would dwarfism prevent you from being an air traffic controller? That doesn't make any sense. Plenty of people that have dwarfism that have, fulfilling careers. So I don't. Again, ridiculous, right? Now, that said, the FAA website said that individuals with these targeted disabilities have the greatest difficulty obtaining employment. This is the only protected group for which federal agencies may have a hiring goal. So, look, I'm all in favor of allowing people, helping people who normally get passed over for careers, get careers. Why shouldn't we do that? And again, that was something that happened under Trump. They had a diversity program, and then Trump gets back into office and then gets rid of it, claiming that, oh yeah, we're targeting DEI. So that was on January 22nd, 2025. Okay, before this deadly crash. Flight should be supervised by the best employees. President Donald J. Trump has signed a presidential memorandum terminating a Biden administration FAA. Actually, that was Trump's. But anyway, that prioritized diversity, equity, and inclusion over safety and efficiency. This presidential memorandum orders the Secretary of Transportation and FAA administrator to immediately stop Biden DEI hiring programs and return to non-discriminatory merit-based hiring. And you can see all of that from the Trump memo. So here's what's going on. Trump first gets rid of the so-called DEI initiative that he put into place in his first administration, put a hiring freeze on air traffic controllers who are already dangerously understaffed. And you know why they're understaffed? Because that's a lack of funding that was appropriated by Congress for the hiring and training of new airport control tower workers. Okay? So Congress, mainly Republicans, okay, they're like, we don't need to hire more government workers. No, we don't need to do that. No. We're not going to do that, because if we do that, that means we got to pay them. And if we pay them, that means we can't have tax cuts for the rich. So, I mean, air safety or tax cuts for the rich, which would we rather have? And every time they go for the tax cuts, of course. Look, here's the thing. Traffic controllers right now are overworked, okay? According to the Times, many air traffic controllers work 6 days a week, 10 hours, at least 10 hours a day. Nobody can keep that up indefinitely without making mistakes, especially in the DCA, okay? That's an incredibly difficult place to work at. And yet the supervisor's like, oh yeah, no, do the job of 2 people. That's fine, nothing bad will happen. Oops. And of course, as I mentioned in a previous report, this airport particularly kept jamming in more flights, thanks to both lawmakers that wanted more direct flights back to their districts, as well as lobbying from groups like Delta. So, look, this tragedy was years in the making, going all the way back to like 2000, when they started saying, let's get more flights in here. And of course, what contributed is lobbying, the lack of funding from Congress, so they couldn't hire more people. And of course, Trump's most recent actions with freezing of the hiring and getting rid of the FAA leadership, among other things. Look, let's be very clear. This had absolutely nothing to do with diversity. Okay? Nothing to do with any of that. Blaming DEI or black people, disabled people, etc., right, is ridiculous. And it is meant to distract people from the fact that this is a result of the long-term project Republicans have been on, which is dismantling the government to try to sell it off to their donors piece by piece. That's what Trump and his friends are doing. Okay, they're basically finally enacting the program of drowning, shrinking government so small that you can drown it in the bathtub. And if that means that you or your family members have to die in a plane crash, well, it's not their problem. A new communication system installed by the Trump administration was reportedly exploited by outside forces, which sent emails to all 13,000 federal employees of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration with the subject line of resign, with the message of, aren't you tired of working for a complete C-word? Oh, wow. Great. Now, NOAA Deputy Director of Communications Scott Smullen wrote a memo to the staff saying, I'm sorry this happened to us. I will report it. So what exactly happened? So now it turns out that the new broadcast system set up by the administration earlier this month has a few vulnerabilities that are easily exploited by, anyone, really. Okay. And that includes journalists like Ken Klippenstein, right? So now, according to Klippenstein, quoting an NOAA employee, goes to show you how fast this new comm system was cobbled together. No security or screening on this address. Klippenstein himself also managed to exploit the system, sending a link to his Substack newsletter to all 13,000 employees of the government agency. So, he's like, hey, have you subscribed to my newsletter yet? That's what you can do, apparently. So, now, look, he said the Trump administration's changes to their communication system made it so that literally anyone could blast out messages to their entire agency. Now, look, with everything that's going on, been going on in the past couple of weeks, it's stories like this that really does show you that incompetence is still one of the hallmarks of Trump's rule. Okay, they were just as incompetent last time they were in control. And, well, there you go. Didn't you think about this? You have a new communication system. You didn't think to secure it at all? And now, of course, the word is out. Federal employees are getting spammed with all sorts of weird messages. And I got to say, this really is a reflection of Trump's bad hiring practices. I thought he hires the best and brightest people to run their agencies. Not so much. In fact, Wired reported on Tuesday that the highest ranks of the Office of Personnel Management, OPM, which is essentially the human resources function for the entire federal government, is now controlled by people with connections to Elon Musk and the tech industry. But wait, you might think, well, they're tech people. They should know what's going on, right? Well, not so much. The unglamorous but key federal office that sends out a massive deferred resignation letter to federal employees on Tuesday has reportedly been taken over by people with ties to Elon Musk. Wired, which described the individuals as Musk lackeys, declined to name some of the newly installed OPM officials because of their ages. One of the officials was set to start college last fall, and another is a 21-year-old whose online resume touts his work for Palantir, the government contractor and analytics firm co-founded by billionaire Peter Thiel. So basically, what this means is that you've got a whole bunch of people in government now that have no idea what they're doing other than, of course, trying to service Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Oh, great. Great. Now, a since deleted Reddit post, purportedly authored by an OPM employee, describes the acting director of OPM, that's Charles Ezel, as, quote, the friendliest yes man you'll ever meet. Oh, because, that's what we want in government, right? That's what we want running these things. It's just somebody who's a loyal soldier. Yes, sir. Anything for you, sir. Can I get you coffee, sir? Crap. Here's what it says. I've been an OPM employee for nearly a decade and a federal employee for almost 20 years. I've never witnessed anything even remotely close to what's happening right now. In short, there's a hostile takeover of the federal civil service. It's clear that they pushed aside all the high-level non-political civil servants who refused to do Donald Trump's bidding until they found Ezel. Ezel has been trying to purge the federal workforce of anybody who's not going to be a yes man for Trump, and as such, they're getting rid of people who actually allowed the government to have some sort of semblance of functionality. Yeah, so that's great. Look, it is one thing to point out funny things like, you just got an email blasted out to all the NOAA people talking about he's gargling Trump's balls. Okay, that's one thing. But it's something else that is more concerning, okay? And that is the fact that some of these same idiots are now trying to access the Treasury Department and specifically the payment system for sensitive things that people rely on, like Social Security payments. I kid you not. According to the Washington Post, longtime Treasury official David A. Lebrick is actually expected to leave the agency soon. Now, this is pretty much a week after getting appointed to the position. Okay, why is this guy on his way out? Lebrick's departure is being blamed in the fact that he had a dispute with Musk's surrogates over access to the payment system the U.S. government uses to disperse trillions of dollars every year. Tens, if not hundreds of millions of people across the country rely on the systems, which are responsible for distributing Social Security and Medicare benefits, salaries for federal personnel, payments to government contractors, and grant recipients and tax refunds, among tens of thousands of other functions. The danger here cannot be understated. These idiots want to get into the payment system, which includes people's personal and banking information. You got this unelected, you can't even call him a bureaucrat, okay? This unelected, guy from South Africa, all right? He's sitting there trying to get control of the nation's finances, including the payment system itself. To do what? One could only imagine the damage he could do. Is this part of the robbery? I don't know. Is he going to start stopping payments for people who might have the wrong kind of politics? Use this as some sort of government, hit list? I don't know. That's what's concerning. The danger here is very, very real and very apparent. It's not just a matter of being incompetent, right? When, like, for example, this whole new email blast out system. But no, this is also part of a takeover, the dismantling of government, and the beginning of what I fear to be a sort of fascist techno-feudalism, which happens to be run by some of the dumbest, most incompetent people imaginable. So we're getting the worst of both worlds here. I do not think that we actually really understood how much damage these people would do if given power. I mean, we knew there would be damage, but now, it just a couple of weeks in, it's already so much worse than we could have ever imagined. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg is not happy about leaks. In fact, he complained about leaks in a meeting that was soon leaked out. How's that for irony? Now, according to 404 Media, Zuckerberg said that he had to be increasingly careful about what he says internally at Meta because, everything I say leaks and it sucks, right? Does it? I mean, I guess so. Now he says, I want to be able to to be able to talk about stuff openly, but I am also trying to we're trying to build stuff and create value in the world, not destroy value by talking about stuff that inevitably leaks. There are a bunch of things that I think are value destroying for me to talk about. So I'm not going to talk about those. But I think it'll be good. You all can give us feedback later. Maybe it's just the nature of running a company at scale, but it's a little bit of a bummer. Now, what exactly is he talking about? This value destroying talk that he wants to avoid? Well, it could be the fact that Meta is settling a $25 million suit with Donald Trump. That would see the company paying $22 million towards the eventual establishment of the Trump Presidential Library, which I think should be the Trump Presidential Bathroom Stall, okay, with the complete golden toilet and everything, all right, because that's about what it's worth. But anyway, among other things, okay, the fact that Meta has changed a lot of its policies as a result of Trump and is basically doing everything he can to curry favor with the incoming Trump administration, all right, along with a lot of these other tech bros, okay? And so, now that said, employees are not on board. That's why we keep getting all of these leaks, okay? Now, during the meeting that was leaked on Thursday, an employee had asked Zuckerberg whether the Meta's recent content moderation policy changes had been influenced by Trump, and of course he couldn't answer that. Now, some of the changes, by the way, openly allow for people to harass trans people. So, that's one of the changes. They make it easier to harass transgender Americans. Great. Now, instead of again talking about that, Meta HR had reportedly informed staff that they would, quote, skip questions that we expect might be unproductive if they leak. And of course, that tells me that Zuck really doesn't have a good answer for them. He did, however, say, we now have an opportunity to have a productive relationship with the United States government. And we're going to take that. Meaning, of course, he's going to keep kissing Donald Trump's ass. Because that's what they're all doing. That's what they're all doing. Now, that said, he's not too happy with these leaks that keep coming out. In fact, after this meeting was leaked, which again, hilarious, Meta Chief Information Security Officer Guy Rosen warned that there would be repercussions for anyone caught speaking to the media. How dare you? We take leaks very seriously and will take action, said Rosen in an internal memo, which was also leaked. I mean, like everything that you, you're going to come after us for leaking? All right, we'll just leak this memo then. Great. He said that when information is stolen or leaked, there are repercussions beyond the immediate security impact. Our teams become demoralized, and we all waste time that is better spent working on our products and toward our goals and mission. That goal and mission, of course, is to be making as much money for Zuckerberg as possible. So, like, damn it, now we have to deal with this bad PR from these damn leaks. Well, okay, but maybe you're getting the bad PR because of what you're telling employees and what you're publicly doing. They don't seem to understand that part. But no, it's the leaks. It's the leaks' fault. This is exactly what had happened, by the way, during the last Trump administration, where Trump had a bunch of leakers, okay, and decided to go to war with the leakers instead of actually, not doing the horrible things that people are leaking to the press, all right? But no, it's full steam ahead for all the horrible things that they're doing, okay? And got to go after the leakers. Got to go after the leakers. In fact, Rosen cautioned employees that Meta would, quote, take appropriate action, including termination, against anyone caught leaking, and claimed that several employees were already fired for that same offense. We recently terminated relationships with employees and who leaked confidential company information inappropriately and exfiltrated sensitive documents. But wait, I thought taking sensitive documents was totally fine. I mean, the now president of the United States was accused of taking all sorts of sensitive documents, including nuclear documents, from the literal White House, from the government, and got away with it. So, I mean, doesn't that mean that anywhere, all documents from anywhere are fair game? I mean, you're not exactly sending a great, example here. But apparently, no, we got to go after the leakers. Got to go after the leakers. Now the other thing is, these employees, I can't believe they would do this. We got to come after them. What do you expect when you work? When you spit in your workers' faces, okay? Because that's what they've been doing the whole time. There's been, reports of kind of an internal employee revolt after all of this, and gee, I wonder why. I mean, how did you think that sucking up to the right wing was going to be taken by your employees? Especially after announcing that you'll be firing about 5% of your workforce, about 3,600 workers. Oh, but they're low performing. Really, it's funny because Meta is pretty profitable right now. Revenue grew 21% to $48.39 billion from $40.11 billion in the last quarter of 2024. So you've massively increased your profits. So what about the low performing employees? Yeah. But that said, those numbers are probably going to get better now that Trump and is going to give more tax cuts and to people like Zuck, and of course to deregulate business. And so, yeah. And by the way, Trump is probably going to give preferential treatment to any company that not only promotes him, but also silences his political opponents. So there you go on that. But I just want to say to these brave men and women that are working at Facebook right now, hey, keep doing it. Keep leaking. Keep leaking to the press. Because you know what? It's the right thing to do, and it really helps to ruin these plutocrats' day. Mexico's president, Claudia Sheinbaum, is trolling President Donald Trump, as well as going after company Google, owned by parent company Alphabet, for changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. So why would they do that? President Donald Trump, in one of his executive orders, changed the name of the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America, as well as changing Mount Denali to Mount McKinley. All right, so now these are part of Trump's insane executive orders, that there was a flurry of them. Many of them are already getting challenged in court, but this one is one of the stupid ones, right? Now, that said, Google apparently had explained on X that, hey, all it takes is to change the name is for the documents of the United States to make a switch, and then Google will switch. Google claimed the move was in line with its longstanding practice of applying name changes when they have simply been updated with official government sources. Now, the company also says that it will, quote, quickly change the name of North America's tallest peak and Alaska's Denali back to Mount McKinley. So President Obama had changed it from McKinley to its traditional name of Denali, the name that it's had for 1,000 years or hundreds of years. I don't know when they started calling it Denali, but it was definitely before people started calling it McKinley. Okay, so now Trump had declared both changes in his executive order to honor America's greatness. But wait, how does this make America great? It doesn't. It's petty and stupid, and only for the benefit of, I would say, some pretty dumb people. Okay, I mean, Americans will now see the Gulf of America on their Google Maps, and Mexico will still see the Gulf of Mexico, And the rest of the world, they're going to end up seeing both, according to Google, which I think is both sad and pathetic. You are basically doing the equivalent of coddling a child. Okay, say, oh, no, you can all have it both ways. What? Now, of course, Mexico's president, Claudia Sheinbaum, she was not impressed with all this, and she said, hey, look, if we're going to be changing names, I mean, then why not rename the United States as America Mexicana? Now, of course, she says, I actually have the authority to do that. But Donald Trump does not have the authority to rename the Gulf of Mexico. Why? Now, she said the U.S. cannot unilaterally change the name of a body of water, which it shares with Cuba and Mexico, because the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea dictates that an individual country's sovereign territory actually only extends up to 12 nautical miles from the coastline. So basically, hey, look, anything up to 12 miles, you can name whatever the hell you want. But Gulf of Mexico, it's a bit further away. So it's not part of your sovereign territory. So you can't sit there and rename it as much as you want to. Sure, you could rename Denali to McKinley. All right. But don't touch the Gulf of Mexico. All right. She said it cannot apply to the rest. In this case, the Gulf of Mexico. This is what we explained to Google in detail. All right. So now she then said, if they're going to do this, then we ask that you put America Mexicana in the search engine. The map appears as we presented. And that is the map. Okay. It's an older map, but it checks out. It actually comes from 1607, where there are spots of the United States now labeled with America Mexicana. So, hey, if we're going by history and all, again, you have America Mexicana from 1607, and then, of course, you had Denali. And it's just going by history. I mean, once the switch, by the way, is recorded in official Mexican documents, Google's going to have to change it, right? I mean, that was the standard Google said. Like, hey, we have this standard, right? Once the government changes that, we're going to have to change it in official, on our map, because it's official documents. My guess is, though, Google's not going to do that, because I think it only applies to Donald Trump, because Alphabet is kissing their ass. Okay? And look, Alphabet's not the only company that is kissing Trump's ass. You've got Chevron. Chevron's out there calling it the Gulf of America in their official earnings release. And so, look, the entirety of corporate America right now is pathetically licking Trump's boots. I wish I could say I'm surprised by that, but no, of course not. Big companies, they've always been on board with fascism. Now, why do I say fascism? Well, I think it's pretty clear what the United States is turning into. Part of fascism, and one of the big parts of it, is ultranationalism. Well, what do you think renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America is? That's nationalism. Denali to back to McKinley. McKinley, American president. Nationalism. And that's it. and it's, of course, to distract us all from the fact that Trump and Musk are basically robbing all of us. That is the plan. The massive robbery of the American people. That said, I love how presidents like Sheinbaum at least are pushing back in whatever way they can. And look, they even refused one of Trump's deportation flights and has not caved to his 25% tariffs, which are going to start this weekend, which no doubt are going to hurt U.S. consumers far more than they're going to hurt Mexico. On Thursday, President Donald Trump's nominee to run HHS, RFK Jr., got grilled, and it got spicy.
If we want to make America healthy, will you assure the American people that you will fight to do what every other major country on earth does, guarantee health care to every single American?
I'm going to make America healthier than other countries in the world right now.
Will you guarantee do what every other major country does? It's a simple question.
And by the way, Bernie, the problem of corruption is not just in the federal agencies, it's in Congress too. Almost all the members of this panel are accepting, including yourself, are accepting millions of dollars from the pharmaceutical industry.
Oh,
and protecting their interests.
Oh, I thought that would come. No. I ran for president like you. I got millions and millions of contributions. They did not come from the executives, not one nickel of PAC money from the pharmaceutical industry. They came from workers.
In 2020, you were the single largest
because I had
receiver of pharmaceutical money.
Contributions from workers all over this country. Workers,
you were the
not a nickel from corporate tax.
You were the single largest acceptor of pharmaceutical dollars.
No, from workers in the industry.
1.5 million.
Yeah, out of 200 million. All right, but you have not answered. Last question.
Okay, so that got a little spicy, but is RFK Jr. right? Well, he is about many people getting a lot of money from big pharma, PACs, CEOs, and then, of course, they go on to pass legislation that prevents, for example, Medicare from being able to negotiate on all prescription drugs. Now, look, President Joe Biden had passed a bill that allowed a very limited number of drugs to be negotiated by Medicare, because that was after pharma lobbyists had watered it down, okay? Now, these pharma lobbyists, these pharma groups, literally from pharma, which is the lobbyist industry trade group, right, that constantly fight against efforts to not only allow Medicare to negotiate prescription drugs, which would bring the price of drugs down, but also they fight against universal health care. Now, Bernie Sanders, as a senator, he has consistently introduced legislation to allow Medicare to negotiate prescription drugs and all prescription drugs, and to expand Medicare to everyone. I mean, he literally ran on it during both of his campaigns, and he has not changed that position whatsoever. But did he take money from the pharmaceutical industry? Well, let's take a look. So the figures Kennedy cited likely came from OpenSecrets.org. Okay, it's a great resource, by the way, when you're looking up politicians and you want to see why did they vote a certain way. Well, generally you're going to see a pattern there when you look them up. Most politicians tend to vote based on the money they receive from lobbyists and special interest groups. Now, Sanders is one of the few that does not have that pattern. Okay. Now, Open Secrets said in 2020, Sanders received more than $1.4 million from the pharmaceuticals/health products industry. And for 2016, it says he got $439,000. Oh, but wait, did that change any of his stated positions? No, no, it didn't. Now, Open Secrets also noted that Kennedy's pharmaceuticals/health products industry contributions for the 2024 cycle were around $325,000. So wait a minute. Oh, yes. Sanders, you got more. But wait, you got $325,000. Does that mean that you were bought by Big Pharma? Or was it from workers, like what Sanders was saying? See, a close examination of that figure shows that, with perhaps just a few exceptions, the money in Open Secrets tallies came from rank and file employees. In both cases, by the way, that supported their respective campaigns, but did not come from executives, lobbyists, or PACs. So Bernie Sanders would be correct. Now, during his 2020 campaign, he had also pledged to reject all contributions over $200 from those PACs, executives, and lobbyists of pharmaceutical and health insurance companies. That pledge did not apply to donations from rank and file workers. Obviously, there's a big difference between taking donations from average people who happen to work in the industry, right, versus the CEOs, lobbyists, and the PACs who donate so they can get a return on investment, okay? A CEO is not going to donate to a political campaign unless it benefits the company, unless it benefits himself or herself. So that's kind of the difference here. So at the end of the day, Bernie's not wrong. And again, even if you take money from the industry, right, workers in that industry, you have to look at the policy positions. Is Bernie Sanders still pushing for universal health care? Yes. Is he still pushing for allowing Medicare to negotiate for prescription drugs? Yes. That's it. So what about Kennedy, right? I mean, Kennedy, didn't he used to be in favor of universal health care? And yet he refuses to answer that question, okay? So where does he get his money? A disclosure form filed for his nomination revealed that he managed to pull in about $10 million over the last year related to dividends from his vaccine lawsuits, his anti-vax speaking fees, and leading something called the Children's Health Defense, which is a nonprofit dedicated to misinformation about vaccine efficacy, right? So this is part of a cottage industry of people online that are grifting off, I would say, legitimate anger and distrust of the pharmaceutical industry. I don't trust the pharmaceutical industry. A lot of people don't trust the pharmaceutical industry. Now, that doesn't mean that the drugs that they are releasing are bad. Look, Bernie Sanders doesn't like Big Pharma because they gatekeep life-saving drugs behind paywalls and lobby to kill universal health care. I agree. RFK Jr., however, doesn't like it because he seems to believe in pseudoscience and debunked papers that blame autism for vaccines or on vaccines, okay? And so, and believes all sorts of crazy things, conspiracy theories that you get from like mommy blogs. So, I mean, to try to claim that they are the same or that Bernie Sanders is somehow worse and is a shill for the pharmaceutical industry, like what RFK Jr. is trying to claim here, is absolutely ridiculous. There is a gigantic difference here. And one is looking out for average people, and the other, if put in this position, will end up doing a massive amount of damage to people's health. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe with the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.